Emily's hands trembled as she gripped the cold steel of the crowbar, her breath ragged in the smoky air of the town fair. Victor's dog, its fur matted with dirt, whimpered at her feet. Across the field, Carl's shadow loomed, his voice a low growl. You shouldn't have meddled, Emily. Her heart pounded. Why was this happening? How had a simple act of kindness led to this betrayal? The crowd's cheers faded as she raised the crowbar, her choice hanging in the balance. But before we continue, let me take you back to how it all began. The diner's neon sign flickered, casting a sickly yellow glow over the cracked pavement of Maple Street. Emily Carter wiped sweat from her brow, her apron stained with coffee and ketchup, as she balanced a tray of plates in a late afternoon rush. The bell above the door jingled, but she barely noticed, until a sharp yelp pierced the air, followed by the screech of tires. Her head snapped up. Outside, a small dog, its tan fur streaked with mud, darted across the road, narrowly dodging a pickup truck. Emily's pulse spiked. Well, it's a dog run loose like that. Without thinking, she dropped the tray, plates clattering, and bolted out the door. Emily, what the hell? Her boss, Marla, shouted, but Emily was already halfway across the street. The dog cowered on the median, eyes wide with panic. Horns blared as Emily waved her arms, halting traffic. Her heart thudded, not from fear but from a stubborn instinct she couldn't name. Just get the dog, Em. Don't overthink it. She scooped the trembling creature into her arms, its warmth seeping through her thin shirt. The dog's tag glinted Max. No address, just a phone number etched in elegant script. Back in the diner, Emily set Max on a booth seat, ignoring Marla's glare. You're gonna get fired one day, girl, Marla muttered, tossing a rag over the spilled coffee. Emily forced a grin, her signature humor kicking in. Fired? Nah, I'm too charming. Right, Max? She scratched the dog's ears, but her mind churned. Whose dog is this? Why is it so fancy? The tag's number stared back, unfamiliar, almost regal. She dialed it, her fingers hesitating. A man's voice answered, clipped and smooth. You found Max. Where are you? 30 minutes later, a black SUV pulled up outside the diner. Emily's stomach twisted as a man stepped out. Tall, silver hair swept back, his tailored coat out of place in this dusty town. Victor Grayson. She'd heard the name whispered in the diner, a local legend who owned half the county but rarely showed his face. His sharp blue eyes locked onto hers, and for a moment, she felt like prey. Thank you, he said, his voice low, almost too polite. Max means a great deal to me. He crouched to pet the dog, his fingers lingering on the collar. Something about the gesture felt off, too deliberate, like he was checking for something. Emily shifted, her pride flaring. Just doing what anyone would. She didn't trust rich men who appeared out of nowhere, not after years of scraping by, raising her son, Ben, alone. Victor's gaze softened, but it didn't reach his eyes. Not everyone would risk themselves for a stranger's dog. I'd like to repay you. Come to my estate tomorrow. I have a proposition. He handed her a card, the paper thick, embossed with gold. Victor Grayson, Grayson Enterprises. Her fingers brushed his, and a chill ran through her. What does he want with me? That night, Emily sat at her kitchen table, the card glowing under the dim bulb. Ben, her 10-year-old, was asleep upstairs, his soft snores drifting down. She traced the card's edges, her mind racing. A proposition? From a millionaire? Her reflection in the window looked tired. Crow's feet at 32, hair pulled back in a messy bun. She'd always prided herself on independence, turning down charity even when the bills piled up. But pride had cost her before. Last year, she'd refused a loan from her friend Sarah, only to lose her car to repo men. Not again, Em. You can't screw this up. Yet the card felt like a trap, its weight heavier than paper. The next morning, Emily drove to Victor's estate, a sprawling mansion nestled in the hills outside town. The gravel crunched under her beat-up sedan, and she gripped the wheel, her knuckles white. Why am I even here? Max sat in the passenger seat, borrowed from Victor for the day, his presence oddly comforting. The estate's iron gates loomed, flanked by stone lions. A groundskeeper waved her through, his stare lingering too long. Emily's gut churned. What's a guy like Victor need with a waitress? Inside, the mansion smelled of polished wood and old money. Victor greeted her in a study lined with bookshelves, Max at his side. "Miss Carter," he said, gesturing to a leather chair. "I need someone discreet, resourceful. You proved that yesterday." His smile was thin, calculated. "I'm offering you a job, temporary, well-paid. Handles some sensitive matters for me." Emily's brow furrowed. "Sensitive?" She leaned forward, her voice sharp. "Like what?" "I'm no secretary." Victor's laugh was soft, almost mocking. "Nothing so mundane. Let's just say I need eyes and ears in town. People talk to you, Emily. They trust you." His words hung heavy, and she caught a glint in his eye. Something hungry, guarded. She wanted to push back, but Ben's medical bills flashed in her mind. "You can't say no. Not yet." "I'll think about it," she said, her tone clipped. Victor nodded, but his gaze followed her as she left, Max trotting behind. Back in her car, Emily's hand shook. What's he hiding? The dog's collar caught her eye again, the tag gleaming. She turned it over, noticing a faint engraving, a tiny symbol like a crescent moon. It felt important, but why? Her pride screamed to walk away, but curiosity and desperation pulled harder. "You're in over your head, Em." She started the engine, unaware of the pickup truck idling in the distance, its driver watching her every move. At the diner that evening, the air was thick with grease and chatter. Emily poured coffee for Old Man Jenkins, her smile forced. "Heard you saved Grayson's dog," he said, his voice raspy. "Careful with that one. He's got secrets." Emily laughed it off. "Secrets? He's just a rich guy with a dog." But her stomach nodded. Jenkins' words echoed Victor's cryptic offer. "Eyes and ears. For what?" She glanced at Max, curled up by the counter, and noticed a regular, Carl, staring at her from a corner booth. Carl was a local developer, all slick suits and fake smiles, always pushing to buy up land. His eyes narrowed, and Emily's skin prickled. Does he know something? Later, as she locked up, Sarah, her best friend, pulled her aside. "Em, you're acting weird. What's going on?" Sarah's round face was all concern, her diner apron matching Emily's. Emily hesitated, pride clamping her mouth shut. "Don't drag her into this." "Just tired," she lied, forcing a grin. "You know me, always juggling." Sarah frowned but let it go. As Emily walked to her car, Max at her heels, a shadow moved in the alley. Her breath caught. A figure, tall, broad-shouldered, slipped out of sight. Was that Carl? Her heart raced, but when she looked again, the alley was empty. At home, Emily tucked Ben into bed, his small hand clutching hers. "Mom, is Max staying?" he asked, eyes bright. She forced a smile. "For now, buddy." But her mind was elsewhere. The crescent moon symbol nagged at her, tied to Victor's offer, to Carl's stare. She'd made a mistake, hadn't she? Taking Max, meeting Victor, it felt like stepping into a web. You should have walked away. But pride had pushed her forward, and now she was tangled. As she lay awake, the phone rang. Victor's voice crackled through. "Emily, I need you to start tomorrow. There's something you need to see." Before she could answer, the line went dead. The next morning, Emily stood at the edge of town, Max's leash in hand, staring at a bulldozed lot where her childhood park once stood. Victor had asked her to meet him here, but he was late. The air smelled of dirt and diesel, and a sign read, "Grayson Enterprises Development." Her chest tightened. What's he building? A pickup truck rumbled nearby. Carl's, she was sure. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Stay out of it, Emily." Her blood ran cold. Max growled, his ears flat. Footsteps crunched behind her, and she spun, heart pounding, to face the empty lot. Who's watching me? The crunch of gravel snapped Emily's head around, her pulse hammering in her throat. The empty lot stretched before her, the bulldozed earth raw and jagged under the morning sun. Max's growl deepened, his small body tense against her leg. The text, "Stay out of it," Emily, burned in her mind, its sender unknown but the threat clear. She scanned the horizon, the distant rumble of Carl's pickup fading into the hum of cicadas. No one, nothing, just the wind stirring dust across the Grayson Enterprises development sign. Her fingers tightened on Max's leash, the crescent moon symbol on his tag glinting like a warning. Who's watching me? She took a step back, her sneakers sinking into the dirt, and then she saw it, a flash of movement behind a stack of construction beams. Her breath hitched. "Who's there?" she called, her voice sharper than she meant. A figure emerged, not Carl, but a woman, mid-40s, wiry, with a tangle of auburn hair and a face etched with worry. "You're Emily, right?" the woman said, her voice low, eyes darting to the road. "I'm Lila. I saw you with Grayson's dog." She stepped closer, her boots scuffing the ground, and Emily noticed her hands trembling, clutching a folded piece of paper. "What's her deal?" Emily's pride flared. She didn't trust strangers popping up with cryptic vibes, but curiosity held her still. "What do you want?" she asked, keeping Max close. Lila glanced over her shoulder, then thrust the paper at Emily. "Read this. It's about Grayson. And that dog." Emily unfolded it, her eyes catching fragmented words. Land deal, corruption, evidence. Her stomach twisted. "Is this about the development?" Before she could ask, Lila hissed. "Not here. Meet me tonight, Old Mill on Route 12. 8 o'clock. She vanished into the shadows of the beams before Emily could protest. The paper felt heavy in her hand, like a secret she wasn't ready to carry. What have I stumbled into? Back at the diner, the lunch rush was in full swing, the air thick with the sizzle of burgers and the clink of dishes. Emily moved on autopilot, pouring coffee, forcing smiles, but her mind was elsewhere. Lila's words echoed, tangled with Victor's vague job offer and the threatening text. Grayson Enterprises. Corruption. Carl's truck. She glanced at Max, curled up by the counter, his tag catching the light. That crescent moon symbol. It was everywhere now, nagging at her like a half-remembered dream. She'd seen it before, hadn't she? Maybe on a document in Victor's study, tucked among his books. Her pride bristled at the thought of being played. "You should have asked more questions, Em. You walked right into this." Sarah caught her arm as she passed the counter. "Em, you're zoning out again. Spill it. What's going on?" Her friend's eyes were wide, searching, and Emily's chest tightened. She wanted to tell Sarah everything. The text, Lila, the symbol, but pride clamped her jaw shut. "You don't need her worrying. You can handle this." "Just stressed about bills," she lied, flashing a grin. "You know, single mom life." Sarah's frown deepened, but she nodded, letting it go. Emily turned away, guilt prickling. Why can't I just tell her? The day dragged, each hour heavy with questions. By evening, Emily stood outside the old mill on Route 12, the air cool and damp with the scent of moss and rusted metal. The mill's broken windows gaped like empty eyes, and Max whimpered at her side. "This is a bad idea." But Lila's paper burned a hole in her pocket, and she couldn't shake the feeling that Victor's offer was more than it seemed. Headlights swept across the lot, and Lila's beat-up sedan pulled up. She stepped out, her face pale in the moonlight. "You came," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Good. We don't have much time." Lila led her inside, where dust motes danced in the beam of her flashlight. "Grayson's not what he seems," she said, spreading papers on a crate. "He's pushing a development deal, luxury condos, right where your neighborhood sits. Carl's his muscle, buying out locals, forcing them out." Emily's blood ran cold. "My neighborhood? Ben's home?" She scanned the papers, deeds, emails, a map with her streets circled. And there, on one page, the crescent moon symbol, stamped like a signature. "What's this symbol?" Emily asked, her voice tight. Lila's eyes darkened. "Grayson's mark. His company's behind it all. That dog? It's not just a pet. It's a courier." Emily's brow furrowed. "A courier?" Lila pointed to Max's collar. "Check it. There's a chip inside. Data. Proof of their deals." Emily's fingers fumbled with the collar, her heart racing. Sure enough, a tiny bulge hinted at something hidden. How did I miss this? Her pride stung. She'd been so focused on Victor's offer, she hadn't questioned the dog she'd saved. "You screwed up, Em." Before she could respond, headlights flared outside, and tires crunched gravel. Lila froze. "They're here," she whispered, grabbing the papers. "Run." Emily's pulse spiked as she scooped up Max and bolted for the back door, Lila at her heels. Outside, Carl's voice cut through the night. You can't hide, Lila. Emily's legs burned as she sprinted into the woods, branches snagging her jacket. Max whined, and she clutched him tighter, her mind racing. How does Carl know Lila? What's he after? They ducked behind a fallen log, the air sharp with pine. Lila's breath was ragged. I used to work for Grayson, she confessed, her voice trembling. I found out about the land deals, the bribes. I took evidence, but Carl's been hunting me since. Emily's stomach churned. You trusted Victor. You ignored the signs. Her pride had blinded her, and now she was running for her life. She wanted to snap at Lila, to blame her, but the fear in the woman's eyes stopped her. She's in deeper than you. The next morning, Emily sat in her kitchen, the papers spread across the table. Ben was at school, and Max slept at her feet, oblivious to the storm brewing. The chip in his collar sat on the counter, a tiny silver square she'd pried out last night. She hadn't dared open it yet. Tech wasn't her thing, but Lila's words haunted her. Proof of their deals. If Victor and Carl were forcing people out, her home was at stake. Her son's future. She rubbed her temples, her reflection in the window pale and drawn. You can't ignore this now, Em. But what do you do? Sarah's knock startled her. Em, you didn't call me back last night, her friend said, stepping inside. Her eyes landed on the papers, the chip. What's all this? Emily's throat tightened. She wanted to deflect to keep Sarah out of it, but the weight of the secret was too much. It's about Grayson, she admitted, her voice low. And Carl. They're planning something bad. Sarah's face hardened, but then her gaze softened. Why didn't you tell me sooner? We're family, Em. The word hit hard, and Emily's eyes stung. Family. She'd pushed Sarah away, thinking she could handle it alone. Another mistake. Sarah sat, scanning the papers. This is big, Em. Too big for you alone. Emily nodded, her pride crumbling. I know. I messed up, thinking I could just deal with it. Sarah squeezed her hand. We'll figure it out. Together. For the first time, Emily felt a spark of hope, but it flickered when her phone buzzed. Another text. Bring the chip to the town fair tomorrow. Or Ben pays. Her blood froze. They know about Ben. She looked at Sarah, her voice trembling. I need your help. That night, Emily and Sarah met Lila at a gas station outside town, the neon lights buzzing overhead. Lila looked worse. Eyes sunken, hands shaking. Carl's closing in, she said. He knows I talked to you. Emily's jaw clenched. This is my fault. She handed Lila the chip. What's on it? Lila's fingers closed around it. Proof. Bank transfers, emails. Enough to expose Grayson and Carl. Emily's mind raced. Expose them? How? She wasn't a hero, just a mom trying to keep her kids safe. But the thought of Ben losing his home, his stability, lit a fire in her. As they planned, Sarah's phone pinged. Her face paled. It's from Carl. He says he knows I'm with you. Emily's heart sank. Sarah? She'd dragged her best friend into this, and now Carl was targeting her too. Before she could apologize, Lila cut in. We end this tomorrow. At the town fair. Everyone will be there, Grayson, Carl, the whole town. Emily nodded, but fear gnawed at her. What if we fail? The fair was tomorrow, and the chip was their only leverage. Emily's eyes fell on Max, sleeping in the back seat. That dog had started it all, and now he was their key. But as she drove home, a shadow moved in her rearview mirror, a truck tailing her. Carl. Her hands gripped the wheel, her heart pounding. He's not stopping. The fair would be their stand, but could she outsmart him? Or was she leading them all into a trap? The truck's headlights glared in Emily's rearview mirror, pinning her like a spotlight. Her knuckles whitened on the steering wheel, the road to the town fair stretching dark and endless ahead. Max whimpered in the back seat, sensing her tension, while Sarah sat rigid beside her, clutching the chip that held Victor and Carl's secrets. The text from Carl, bring the chip to the fair, or Ben pays, burned in Emily's mind, each word a needle of fear. How does he know about Ben? Her throat tightened, the air thick with the scent of gasoline and dread. She glanced at Sarah, whose face was pale but resolute. We're almost there, Em, Sarah whispered, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. Emily nodded, but her heart pounded. You dragged them into this. You should have walked away. The fair's lights flickered in the distance, a beacon of hope, or a trap. Emily pulled into the fairgrounds, the lot buzzing with the chaos of the annual Maple Street Fair. Laughter and fiddle music clashed with the thump of carnival rides, the air heavy with cotton candy and fried dough. Families milled about, oblivious to the storm brewing in Emily's chest. She parked near the Ferris wheel, its neon glow casting shadows across her face. This ends tonight. She turned to Sarah, her voice low. Stay with Max. If anything goes wrong, get out. Sarah's eyes narrowed. We're in this together, Em. No more solo acts. Emily's pride stung. She'd pushed people away too long, but Sarah's words anchored her. She's right. You can't do this alone. Lila was waiting by the funnel cake stand, her auburn hair tucked under a cap, her eyes scanning the crowd. You have the chip? She asked, her voice taut. Emily nodded, slipping it into her pocket. Carl's here somewhere, Lila said, glancing at a group of men near the beer tent. And Victor's on the main stage, schmoozing the mayor. Emily's stomach churned. Victor's here? The man who'd pulled her into this with his cryptic offer, his dog, his secrets. The crescent moon symbol on Max's collar flashed in her mind, tying it all together. You were blind, Em, but not anymore. The fair pulsed with life, but to Emily, it felt like a chessboard, every move calculated. She wove through the crowd, Lila at her side, Sarah trailing with Max. The plan was simple. Get the chip to the mayor's office, where Lila's contact, a local reporter, could expose Victor and Carl's land deal. But Carl's threat loomed, and Emily's eyes darted to every shadow, every face. Where is he? Her heart raced as they passed a petting zoo, kids giggling over goats. The normalcy mocked her fear, but it also grounded her. This is for Ben, for our home. They reached the stage, where Victor stood in a crisp suit, his silver hair gleaming under the lights. He was shaking hands, his smile polished, but Emily caught the flicker in his eyes, watchful, predatory. He knows something. She clutched the chip, her fingers sweaty. Lila leaned in. The reporters in the community tent moved fast, but before they could turn, a hand clamped Emily's shoulder. She spun, heart lurching, to face Carl. His slick suit was rumpled, his grin cold. Going somewhere, Emily. His voice was smooth, but his eyes were hard, glinting with menace. Sarah stepped forward, Max growling at her feet. Back off, Carl, she snapped, but he ignored her, his gaze locked on Emily. You got something of mine, he said, nodding at her pocket. Hand it over, and Ben stays safe. Emily's blood froze, her mind racing. He's not bluffing. She glanced at Lila, who shook her head slightly. Don't give in. But fear clawed at her. Ben, her pride, her stubborn need to handle things alone, had led to this. She'd ignored the signs, trusted Victor, dragged Sarah and Lila into danger. You messed up, Em. Fix it. All right, she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her chest. She pulled out the chip, holding it up, the crowd's chatter fading to a hum. Carl reached for it, but Emily stepped back, her mind spinning. Think, Em. She needed time, a distraction. Her eyes caught the stage, where Victor was stepping down, his gaze now fixed on her. He's part of this. The realization hit like a punch. Victor wasn't just a reclusive millionaire. He was the architect of this deal, and Carl was his enforcer. The chip was their undoing. Emily's hands trembled as she gripped the chip, her breath ragged in the smoky air of the fair. Max whimpered at her feet, his fur matted with dirt from their earlier run. Carl loomed closer, his shadow swallowing the light. You shouldn't have meddled, Emily, he growled, his voice low, meant only for her. The crowd's cheers faded, their faces blurring into a haze. Her heart pounded. Why is this happening? How'd I get here? She raised the chip, her choice hanging in the balance. Give it up, and Ben might be safe. Fight, and she risked everything. You can't back down now. Victor, she shouted, her voice cutting through the noise. Heads turned, and Victor froze mid-step, his polished mask slipping. The crowd parted, sensing tension. Emily's pulse roared. This is it. Tell them, she said, holding up the chip. Tell them what you and Carl are doing, buying out homes, forcing people out. Victor's eyes narrowed, but he forced a laugh. She's confused, he said to the crowd, his voice smooth. Just a misunderstanding. Lila stepped forward, papers in hand. No misunderstanding, she said, her voice shaking but firm. These are your deals, Victor. Bribes, threats, all of it. She thrust the papers at the mayor, who'd joined the crowd, his face pale. Carl lunged for Lila, but Emily swung her bag, catching him in the chest. The crowd gasped, and Max barked, snapping at Carl's legs. Chaos erupted, people shouting, phones out, filming. Emily's heart soared and sank at once. They're listening. But Carl's not done. Carl grabbed her wrist, twisting hard. Pain shot up her arm, but she didn't let go of the chip. You'll regret this, he hissed. Emily's mind flashed to Ben, to their tiny house, to the life she'd fought for. Not today. With a surge of strength, she yanked free, shoving the chip into the mayor's hands. Get this to the reporter, she yelled. The mayor nodded, stumbling back, as Sarah pulled Lila away from Carl's reach. Victor's voice boomed. Enough. He stepped forward, his face a mask of fury. Emily, you don't know what you're doing. But she saw it now, the fear in his eyes. He's cornered. The chip held everything. Bank records, emails, proof of their scheme to bulldoze half the town for profit. And Max, that scruffy dog she'd saved, had carried it all along. You were the key, buddy. Carl lunged again, but two locals, Jenkins from the diner and a burly farmer, grabbed him, pinning his arms. The crowd cheered, a wave of support washing over Emily. This is community. She turned to Victor, her voice steady. It's over. You can't hide anymore. Victor's shoulders sagged, the fight draining from him. He looked at Max, then at Emily. And for a moment, she saw something human. Regret, maybe. I didn't mean for it to go this far, he muttered, but the mayor was already calling for security. The fairgrounds quieted as police led Carl away, his curses fading into the night. Victor followed, his head bowed, Max trotting behind. Emily's legs shook as she sank onto a bench, Sarah and Lila beside her. The reporter, a young woman with a notepad, was already typing furiously, the chips safe in her hands. This'll hit the papers tomorrow, she said, her eyes bright. You did good, Emily. Emily managed a weak smile, her arm throbbing where Carl had grabbed her. Did I? Sarah hugged her, fierce and warm. You scared the hell out of me, Em. Emily laughed, the sound shaky. Yeah, well, I'm charming like that. But her eyes stung. She'd almost lost everything. Her home, her son, her friends, because of her pride. You can't keep shutting people out. Lila touched her shoulder, her face softer now. I was scared too, she admitted. But you gave me courage. Emily nodded, her throat tight. Forgiveness starts here. Later, as the fair wound down, Victor approached, free for now but under investigation. Emily, he said, his voice low, I underestimated you. He handed her an envelope, thick with cash. For Ben. For your trouble. She wanted to throw it back, pride flaring, but Ben's face flashed her mind. His smile, his future. She took it, her voice firm. This doesn't make it right. Victor nodded, almost sad. I know. At home, Emily tucked Ben into bed, the envelope hidden in a drawer. Mom, you're a hero, he mumbled, half asleep. She kissed his forehead, her heart full. Not a hero, just a mom. The town would heal, but challenges remained, bills, trust, rebuilding. Still, she felt lighter. You're not alone anymore. Outside, the stars shone over Maple Street, and Max curled up by the door, his tag glinting. Second chances. Subscribe to the channel for more soul-stirring stories.